Gadgets for Family, the tech podcast for the person that spent way too much money last week and the person that took our advice, and Greg has his hand raised, and the person that took our advice and used things like trade-ins and other resources to get the best price possible, and anyone else looking to get more out of their lives through tech. I'm your host, Jay Benjamin.
And I'm your host, Greg Cunningham. And I don't think I spent too much money, but I wish I hadn't had to spend quite that much. But I did, right? And I think this also applies to all of those that are still sitting there waiting for the hand-me-down, right?
Yep.
Like, yeah,
Which is the best part of the year.
please get up at 6 a.m. and order that phone so I can have a new one.
All right, Greg, let's talk about some phone stuff. We talked a pretty good amount about iOS, and we're going to go into some more in the post show. But let's talk about some phone stuff that we found out. And again, let's start with some questions that we had. I think you and I both had this question about that action button. And is it going to allow press to hold? Is it going to allow, other, press options and things like that? So what did you find out?
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, now this is software fix should be able to do this, right? But
Yeah.
it's press and slightly hold is the only action, and you can only map it to one thing. And I saw in Marquez Brownlee's review today, he's like, Apple, if you're listening, let me double tap or triple tap, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so yeah, it's only one press. I did see that and this I think would be useful. So we had a Venezuelan family move in to the area that, moved in with absolutely nothing. So we were trying to all help them get, beds and, some of those kinds of things. And we were over there and I'm trying to set up the table, and my wife's trying to talk to her about baby stuff that she needs, because we have a ton of stuff just sitting in storage, and she's speaking Spanish. I'm trying to understand from my Portuguese background, and I'm trying to speak Portuguese to her. And it would be really nice to just hit that translate button, hit that side button, and have it activate translate. So that's coming later this year. I think most people are going to leave it on the mute switch. And then I think the geeks are going to map it to a shortcut, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing. I've got on my list to figure out what I want that button mapped to: the double back tap and the triple back tap. So on my new phone, my goal is to have those three things mapped to the things that I do the absolute most, so I don't have to do anything else with them.
So like you said, it's coming. The hardware is there. It's not just a regular button. It's a really smart button. It'll be able to handle all that. So I think that they just couldn't squeeze that into the iOS 17. So we know it's coming, just like the original home button. Remember, it was just press to unlock and all of that. And then we got double, triple tap and things like that. So we know it's coming. The Translate app, being able to press that, especially in environments like me, I use my Translate app a lot. And being able to press and hold that, listen to someone, or however it functions, what I mean? Just press it to open the app, allow them to speak, and I speak back to them. That is really good. So I use that app a lot, and being able to map that button in a future phone would really help a lot. So,
well, two things. I want them to do it on the watch, map the action button to a double and a triple as well, right? So we can do three different things with the action button on the watch. And then just kind of a little sidebar, but there are actually two Spanish-speaking families that have moved into our community. Now, I live in a really small community, and we do have Spanish speakers around because we have a lot of return missionaries, right, for church. But both of the families, the two kids that are in elementary school where my wife is an aide, neither of them speak English. And so they are surviving right now using Google's Translate, but you could do the same thing with Apple's, but that is how
Apple
they
Translate.
are surviving right now. I mean, that's the only way they're starting to figure out what in the world is going on. Now they're kids, so they'll pick up English pretty quickly, because you learn languages much better when you're younger. So, but talk about advantages of technology. And I think we've talked a lot about Apple's health stuff. I think bridging cultural and language gaps is going to be a big deal as we go forward and we think of AI. And eventually I want to be able to, listen to people speaking in Klingon and just have that thing in my ear that auto translates it from Star Trek.
Have your AirPod in, universal translator.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yep, I'm with that. But yeah, that's going to be a welcome feature. And again, we don't have a timeline on these yet, right? But
Yeah.
it's coming. It's
Yep.
coming. So let's talk about the colors on the phone. Now, I think I said several times, offline and online, I'm not happy about any of these colors on the phone, right? But if I had to go with any colors, um, it would be that the wow, I forget the name of it.
The,
Not the white, but
the
the other
natural
one,
titanium.
the natural one. That one looks good, and then the regular black. But you have some issues with that.
Yeah, I mean, all of the pro colors are varying shades of gray. Um,
Yeah,
Even the blue maybe is less gray, but they're all kind of gray. And one of the podcasts was joking around that if they were going to color match cables in the box, that they could just put in 4 different shades of gray or even a single shade of gray and nobody be able to tell the difference. I
yeah,
mean, that's the problem with these. And then, watching some of the videos today, even the non-pro ones that are those, they're almost pastel Easter versions of green and blue and pink and all that kind of stuff,
hmm,
right? They wash out in light. And I mean, I'm looking
yeah,
at my 12 right now, and this is supposed to be the space gray. And I'm looking at my 12. That's what I'm using them as my camera at the moment. And based on this lighting, it almost looks like a greenish tint titanium. So these
yeah,
colors are just, I mean, I like some chameleon colors on cars. Like I used to really want the Mustangs that came out with that deep, deep forest green that at times it just looks super black depending on how the sun
yes,
hit it. That would be
hmm,
awesome. But these don't go to good colors when they get the wrong light, which is why I wouldn't get the black. Um, and I'll share what I did get when we get to that part of the show. But yeah, boring from a color standpoint. And
yeah,
um, I'm not planning on putting a case on this thing except for when I'm camping. So we'll see the color that I chose, what it looks like, and that'll make me decide whether I'm putting a clear skin or whether I'm putting um, something a little more fun on it because it's just not
yeah,
there. And I mean, if you don't want to do this, if you're just going to say, well, um, everybody puts cases on them anyway. Just release a
yeah.
single
Most people
phone
do.
in a single color, right? Release one phone
Yeah,
in a color, reduce your operating costs, hopefully pass on some of that to the consumers, or use it to invest in more tech, right? I mean, throw a pair of AirPods in the case instead of coloring the phone. I
yeah,
mean, you know what I mean? If that's
right,
the attitude that
right.
you have, if not, do something fun. Now, I say that, and come March, I'll have this nice brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max, and they're going to release a nice deep green one in their spring collection, right? And I'm going to be
Right.
ticked.
Like they did the yellow one this year, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. The colors are, like I said, it's outside of the phone. I'm not impressed with at all with the Pro or the regular model, but definitely inside it'd be worth it. So
Yeah.
I know people listening like, oh, Jay keeps contradicting himself. He's either the phone is terrible, either upgrade or don't upgrade. No, internally you get a lot of value. It's worth the price for the 15 and the Pro, but just the colors they went with this year are just they could have did better.
Yeah. I mean, we get a few of the want on the phones and the operating and system and stuff like that. But I mean, if you weren't on last year's phone, you'd be upgrading, I'd assume, right? If you were on a 13 or
Yes,
newer, you'd be upgrading, right? And I'm
yeah,
definitely upgrading, even though I look at this and go, okay, it wasn't quite as over the top as I had hoped it would be. So, but we'll
yeah,
see.
yeah.
Next week, we'll talk just a preview into next week. Next week, we'll talk about if we have experience with the phones, we'll talk about them, if we've seen them in a
Hmm.
store or in people's hands. But also, I plan on watching a bunch of the reviews so we can talk about, is it a bigger deal than we're making of it, or what matters and what
Yeah,
doesn't. So we'll talk about that next week.
yeah, yeah. So another thing we had with there's no changes in the charging for the Pros, right?
Yeah,
The
switch.
speeds,
Yep.
everything's still the same.
Yeah, switch to USB-C, but it's still gonna. I mean, if it fast charges, it fast charges. It's like 15
Yes.
watts, right? Standard is 7.5. So, but there was some hope that it would go up higher, but it doesn't look like, um, per the specs, at least,
Yeah.
there's no change in speeds. Now we'll see. Somebody will put a 100-watt USB-C charger on it and tell me if it charges faster, right? Than if you
Yeah.
only put a 20
Yeah.
watt on it, and we'll see. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
a lot of those guys, a lot of those really techie guys that we watch, they hook their little meter up to it
Yep.
and they test the voltage and all of that. So yeah, we'll have some more concrete evidence, some more conclusive evidence of that. But as far at least on the spec sheet, there's no
Yep.
changes in charging.
They can also afford to
Um,
melt the phone. I can't.
yeah, right. They could go through their views to just buy them another one. So the pro models, they're getting more RAM, right? And this is one of the things that I missed in the keynote. But yeah, the Pro model is getting a little boost with the RAM.
I think they're going up to 8 GB. They used to be at 6. I mean, this is why I think when I get my phone, it's going to feel like my first iPhone ever,
Right.
right? I
Right.
mean, between the camera and the speed and the screen clarity and the always on display. I mean, again, if I were to just, and maybe I should do this, right? Maybe I should go back and list all the things that I don't have in the 12 that I'm getting in the 15 and see how big of a
Right.
deal that is. But yeah, more RAM, gonna move faster. It's good for all of that processing and the photography work. I mean, one of the things they say you can do when you use these zoom modes, and
Hmm.
Samsung has done this before, but one of the things when you use one of the zoom ins, it puts a little box on your screen that shows you the full picture if you weren't zoomed, so that you know where
Okay.
you can kind of see where you're looking at, where you're zoomed in on. Because sometimes you zoom in, right? Like I know this when I used to hunt. I used to throw the binocular. I used to be able to see the deer moving on the side of the hill. And then you throw the
Yeah.
binoculars up and you're like, okay, where'd they go?
Yeah.
And
Like
you
where am I? Yeah.
trying to find the spot. So they put a little box up so you can kind of see where you're zooming in compared to the larger photo. That kind of stuff
Okay.
requires memory, right? And so that's
Yeah.
exactly what you want. And then hopefully in the background, apps that are kind of staying refreshed and stuff in the background, they won't
Hmm.
get updated as, or they won't get shut down, right? Because they kind of
Yes.
allocates resources to the active stuff. But one thing I forgot to mention with the watch, which is what I'd really rather they do, is upgrade the RAM in the watch versus the storage space. But I did
Hmm.
notice that Overcast has done an update, and yesterday, so if you don't know this, syncing between media between your phone and your watch is a big deal. And like loading
Yep.
podcasts onto your watch, they can take forever. And
Yeah.
yesterday I
Yeah.
noticed that I went into Overcast and just happened to get there when a new episode of one of my podcasts dropped.
Hmm.
And so I saw it, it downloaded, it was good to go. And I expected to go to my watch because I was getting ready to go for a walk and expected to have to wait a few minutes for it to download. And it was at 96% already. And I went straight
Okay.
from my phone to my watch. So hopefully they've improved some of that stuff, or Marco was able to do something in there to increase that syncing speed between the devices.
Okay. I'm wondering if we got that improvement though with the native podcast app. I need to check that out because that is a huge improvement.
Yeah, I mean it takes forever. Even Apple stuff, right? It just takes
Yeah.
forever to synchronize things across. And I did notice too that when I added that one extra playlist, now it was only 20 songs or so, but it
Hmm.
moved over in a matter of seconds. So
Okay.
hopefully they've improved that. And that's the kind of stuff that RAM will make a difference on. So if you're on a pro phone,
Yeah.
the more RAM, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed, and I've been playing around with this since the moment we installed the beta from the first night, is the contact posters. Right, I've been creating them. I showed the one that I have for you and a few other people. I showed them, and they just look amazing. Well, when you create one for yourself personally, just like the original icon that they had, the little photo that they had for you, your contact, whenever you make changes to yours, it'll update on everyone else's devices automatically. So it's not something you would have to keep constantly sending an updated photo to somebody or something like that. If you shared your contact information with them and they have that poster, it's going to update for them. If you change your font or decide to change the photo or the color or whatever you do, those changes will update on everyone's devices. So I thought that was a
I just
really cool
hope
thing to add.
I hope there are enough controls in place that I just don't know about, that people can't force inappropriate content to their contacts, right?
You know what? Oh wow, I didn't think about that. That was the whole change to AirDrop
Yeah,
and security and things like that. But then again, so it does give you the option to revert to at least for that little photo, right?
yeah,
Your contact photo. So I don't know about the poster, but like remember I told you one of my it was hassling me because it kept updating yours automatically.
right.
Then it would give me the option to revert. But yeah, to not have to see that information.
Yeah. I just
But
hope
then
there's
you
enough
think,
controls
I
in
think it was,
place, right? So
yeah,
that you don't have to worry about that. So we'll hear about it if there's not, right? Now that
we
there's
will,
millions of
we
people
will.
using it, we'll know this week if
Yeah,
there's a problem.
yeah, yeah. And I think part of that problem too was the people doing it anonymously,
Yeah.
right? Because you get airdropped some strange pictures. It was just from iPhone 17 or Dave's iPhone or something, and you're on a bus or a train or something. You're like, well, who is Dave? I just got these inappropriate pictures. Whereas this is someone that you shared your contact info with.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of people do it with business contacts and things like that, but you pretty much have all of their information already,
Yeah.
right? So if they're sending something inappropriate, but you're right, people do stupid things,
I know.
and
They have
yeah,
to ruin it
I,
for the
I'm
rest of
I'm
us.
curious to see. Yeah, I'm curious to see if they're going to have to add in some kind of security controls or something like that. So
Yep.
yeah, good point to bring that up.
Yeah, I've built three. I've got mine kind of the way I want it, but then I did my wife's
Mhm.
with one of my favorite pictures of her, which is a portrait with the bouquet behind it and that kind of stuff in front of the temple where we got married. And then I showed you the one I did of Wyatt of
Yes,
his senior soccer poster,
right,
which
right.
looked really cool.
It
So
does. And remember, I told you the better the picture, the better these things look. And I know that was like a professionally made picture, so it
yeah,
just makes your contact poster look professionally done.
yep.
I don't know. To me, when I see them, they look awesome. So yeah, yeah, good job on that one. But yeah, I just go through and I just create. I added a new contact the other day. I just created a poster for them. You know what I mean? So I love doing it. I thought it was a really good idea. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. And last week we said we'll see you on Mars, but did you see the commercial with the space and all of that? The
I
little the
did
little short that
not.
they had. It is really cool. So they're really pushing that thing. So again, if we don't see you on Mars, we'll see you on Jupiter,
All
guys.
right. Till next week.
See you next week.